I want to talk about the attack on our history, our national symbols, on the things that unite us as Canadians. I've never seen it so bad as in this story. City of Victoria to remove John A. Macdonald statue from front steps of City Hall. John A. Macdonald, as in the founding father of Confederation, our first Prime Minister, the one who forged the country, and then who built a railroad to make sure it stayed forged. You might recognize him. He's on our $10 bill. Actually, that's not the case anymore. Did you know that? John A. Macdonald has been on our $10 bill for nearly 50 years. Before that, it was the Queen, and before her, the King. But Justin Trudeau has removed him from the $10 bill. Did you know that? Last year, Trudeau's government issued a $10 banknote where Macdonald was on there, but with 3 other people. They were prepping you to get rid of him, and now that has happened. This year, they just removed him altogether. They put on this lady instead. Do you know who she is? Is that a picture of young Queen Elizabeth or something? No, it is not. It's someone named Viola Desmond. Who's she? She was a businesswoman in Halifax. She was of mixed race descent. Her mom was white and her dad was black. She went to a theater that didn't allow blacks to sit near the front, and she needed to see the screen better. So she bought a ticket there, and she was prosecuted for that, and it became a human rights case. So sounds like a good woman. Sounds like she fought against racism. That's great, but it is not proportionate to have someone like that on our national currency. King George VI was on our $10 bill, then Queen Elizabeth II was on our $10 bill, then our founding Prime Minister, John A. Macdonald, was on our $10 bill, and now a community activist who fought a movie theater. I'm sorry, that's nuts. That's virtue signaling. I get it. Trudeau is all about feminism, and he'd be all about Black Lives Matter if he could. But luckily, Canada doesn't have a history of black slavery. In fact, we were the destination for runaway slaves, for freed slaves from the U.S. through what was called the Underground Railroad. This is so forced. I mean, Viola Desmond fought a political battle, a legal battle, and good for her, but she didn't build a nation. She didn't lead the British Empire through a world war. The symbols of our country are being shrunk if she's on the $10 bill. I like Viola Desmond, sure, but she didn't build Canada. But look, it's not about Viola Desmond. Nice lady, good woman. It wasn't about her. It was about knocking down John A. Macdonald. And of course, about knocking down the Queen. And in an important way, about shaming Canada and making us feel like we have a racist past, as opposed to the truth, which is that we have always been a light unto the nations. More so than most countries. Trudeau does this all the time, though. He shames Canada. He scolds Canada. He says we're unworthy and immoral, and only he is the righteous one. That's what knocking out Macdonald and putting in a small local human rights activist as our new national symbol means. Back to the City of Victoria. I read the headline already. Now look at this subheadline. No one's erasing anything, but we have to understand the complexity of history, says Mayor Lisa Helps. She's against the statue too. No one's erasing anything. You are tearing down a statue. You know who tears down statues? The Taliban tears down statues. They dynamite them. ISIS tears down statues because they're extremists. They are against any graven images that they don't like. And just like Justin Trudeau is slowly erasing our history, our culture, our story, so is the Mayor of Victoria. Listen to this insanity. Let me quote. The City of Victoria is planning to remove the statue of John A. Macdonald, Canada's first Prime Minister, from the front steps of City Hall because of what it says is his role as a leader of violence against Indigenous peoples. No, he was the founder of our great country, but I see what they're doing there. Besides blaming and shaming Macdonald, they are attempting to blame and shame anyone who loves Macdonald or who loves our history. It's not just Macdonald they're calling racist, it's anyone who doesn't agree with them about Macdonald. But they're doing one more thing. It's a placebo. You know what a placebo is. It's a fake pill that doctors give patients sometimes to pretend to the patient that they're prescribing a real medicine to the patient when the problem is really just in the patient's mind. The idea being, if the patient believes he's now ingesting medicine, he'll feel better by himself. No need for real medicine. It's a trick. Well, this is a placebo for doing something real about Aboriginal issues. Oh, there are Aboriginal issues in Canada, and there is anti-Aboriginal racism in Canada. Absolutely there is, and I'm not scolding you. I'm talking to you about a law we have on the books called the Indian Act that gives rights and takes rights away from Aboriginal people based on race, that treats them different from other citizens based on race. Mainly, it treats Aboriginal people like they're children, as people not able to handle the responsibilities of modern life. That's why Indians on a reserve aren't allowed to have property rights to their own homes. The band owns everything communally. The theory being, Indians can't take care of their own property, or they'd be, swindled out of it by some unscrupulous buyer, so better not let them have the right to sell any property ever. Did you know the Indian Act even bans Indians from making a last will and testament on their own without the band's approval? Did you know that? Seriously. Look at Section 45.3 of the Indian Act. An Indian needs to have a white man's government in Ottawa approve of his will. You're not allowed to own your own house. You're not allowed to get a regular mortgage. You're not allowed to make your own will if you're an Indian. So yeah, racism, you bet. Not 150 years ago, right now. Which is easier, I ask you, for liberal white virtue signaling politicians to do, to fix the real racism today in the Indian Act, to get jobs for actual Indians today who suffer from high unemployment today? Is that easier? Fix the Indian Act, fix economic problems, or to tear down a statue as if the evil statue is the problem we have, like it's some sort of cursed idol or something that needs to be smashed. It's a placebo, I tell you. I have never met a real Indian in my life who has ever, not once, ever brought up John A. Macdonald as an issue. Real Indians that I know talk about real things like jobs and taxes and oil and gas and mining and pipelines. Those are huge Aboriginal employers in Canada. That's what real issues are. But these leftists in Victoria, most of them white, all of them virtue signaling, would rather talk about anything else, wouldn't they? Now, it is true, though, that John A. Macdonald was a racist. Of course it was true, by our 2018 standards of progressive feelings. But then again, those standards change so quickly. Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama are a bunch of, homophobes too, by that standard. Remember this?
I believe that marriage is not just a bond, but a sacred bond between a man and a woman.
What was that? Maybe 10 years ago? Here's Barack Obama.
I have been very clear on this. I have said that I am not a supporter of gay marriage. I believe that marriage is between a man and a woman.
So, are Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton a bunch of racist, sexist, Islamophobic, homophobes or something? Should we tear down their statues too? Not that there are a lot of statues to Clinton and Obama, but you get my point. How about the big icon of the Canadian left, Tommy Douglas? Here he is.
If ever we needed in this country to adopt a new attitude to homosexuality, this is the time. Instead of treating it as a crime and driving it underground, we ought to recognize it for what it is. It's a mental illness.
He's so enlightened. He doesn't want to throw gays in prison. He just thinks they're mentally ill and they need to see a psychiatrist. Uh-oh, is he a bigot now too? Should we tear down the 100 Tommy Douglas statues and rename the 100 Tommy Douglas schools and parks in Canada too? Because that's the thing, Tommy Douglas actually was progressive at that time. That was open-minded at that time. Was Canada racist 150 years ago? Yeah, well, we are today too, unless you work hard to ignore it. We have racial quotas. Justin Trudeau himself has gender quotas for cabinet. He pretty clearly has a bias against white males other than himself, the enlightened one. The Indian Act, though, whew, that's a racist document. But seriously, were we bigoted in Canada back in the 1860s? Was John A. Macdonald bigoted? Well, we were the world's refuge for runaway slaves. We were part of the British Empire whose navy eradicated the slave trade. There was slavery on every single continent in the world, by the way. In North America, in Canada, the Haida Indians of BC, they kept slaves. They were famous for it. If you read the stories of the conquistadors, they encountered murderous slavers in Central America. Africa still has slavery. Asia has slavery. Every place in the world had slavery, Every traditional religion in the world has been or is hostile to homosexuality. Every culture, other than the mythical Amazons, I suppose, has been sexist in a way, or at least believed in gender roles. To pretend that we were evil then is a laugh. It's like a placebo to distract from our real challenges now. But it's really just a way to attack Canada and to pull us down, isn't it? It's the same as Trudeau changing our national anthem. It's the same as Liberals opposing the Lord's Prayer. It's the same. It's them hating Canada, not themselves. Oh, they don't hate themselves. They just hate you. That's an excerpt from my daily TV show, the Ezra Levant Show. Normally it's behind a paywall, but I thought you'd like this video, so we put it on YouTube. If you want to subscribe to watch the daily show every day, including always 2 interviews a day, and I read my hate mail, just click on this screen and become a premium member.